Peter Cunningham, my boss. If you could describe this dinner with racers in one word, what would it be?
Hold on, no.
What?
You gotta. He's more than your boss.
But people are going to know that. No one's going to be like, who's P.D. Cunningham? P.D. Cunningham, my boss.
God damn it.
And 7-time drivers champion in sports car racing. And did I mention he's my boss?
What I like is the cold stare.
Yeah,
like you better know his damn stats.
Every conversation ever.
Yeah.
Just a dead eye.
Yeah. I'm more than your boss. That's what he's saying right now with his eyes.
Are you done?
No.
If you could describe this dinner with racers in one word, what would it be?
Jugglers.
What? Context?
Jugglers.
You're just saying the same word.
You're both jugglers.
Okay. Go on.
Proceed.
You like to juggle?
What's happening right now?
I don't know where I am.
He's so proud of himself.
He's thrown us off.
And now for Dinner with Racers, presented by
Continental Tire.
with your hosts, Ryan Eversley and Sean Heckman.
Placeholder radio sound. I'm a driver. I'm very angry. This is the sound of a driver on the radio during a race.
What do you think I should order?
Welcome to Dinner with Racers. I'm Ryan Eversley alongside my co-host,
Sean Heckman.
and this particular episode is important to me because it's my boss, P.D. Cunningham. If you're a road racing fan, you know that P.D. Cunningham has won more championships and World Challenge than anybody else in the history of the world. He is a longtime ambassador of Honda and Acura brand race cars, street cars, rally cars, you name it. And having him on was something I wanted to do last year, but unfortunately we just couldn't make it work with the schedule. So we were happy to have him on this time. And this particular episode was probably the worst hangover I've ever had in Dinner with Racers history.
And that's because it was in Las Vegas. So at this point in the journey, we drove our Honda Odyssey.
That's right.
With what tires?
Continental Tires.
Cross contact LX20s. By this point, we've gone across the country, down into Florida, over to Texas, and now back. And now we're in Las Vegas for the very famous SEMA show. For those who don't know what SEMA is, it's a big trade show, more for like the aftermarket and tuning community, more so than motorsports, but a lot of motorsport activity happens there. Ryan is at SEMA anyway for a bunch of work that he does with, who again?
Continental Tire.
As well
Social media.
As well as social media! And
we were also there announcing our program for next year with the Acura NSX across both World Challenge and IMSA. So big week, and the night before we recorded this was Continental Tire's massive party they put on for all their partners and sponsors and people that they work with in the industry. So naturally I had to participate, and so the funny part of this story was that I was leaving the club about an hour after you left LA to come back and pick me up to go to breakfast.
So I dropped off Ryan in Las Vegas to do a couple days of SEMA. I actually had to go back to LA for a couple different things and then came back to Vegas. So
Right.
trying to get the maximum amount of time I could out of LA, I actually drove. We had to meet PD at 8 a.m.
Right.
Which meant we had to get to whatever restaurant at 7 a.m.
Right.
So I had to, in order to make sure I was on time, get you picked up, all that, I had to leave Los Angeles at 2 a.m. to make sure I was safe. So I leave at 2 a.m. I'm an hour and a half down the road. I pull up my phone when I'm at a gas station, check Twitter, and see a tweet from Ryan Eversley posted like 20 minutes before going out with behind the guys, big night. And I'm like, I'm already on the road to go to work, dude.
Right.
And in fairness, I show up at your hotel at 6:30, and you were ready.
I was ready to
go.
go.
On time.
I was on time. I'll say that.
You were on time.
ready.
Okay, you were on time. Anyway, so then we.
You looked as bad as I did.
Yeah, I'd been up since 2 a.m. I went to bed at midnight and got up at 2 and then drove.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Well, I went to bed at 3:30 and woke up at 6.
Yeah, having fun.
Having a grand old time.
Yeah. Well,
hey,
good
look,
for you.
those parties are hard, man. Like, it's not just fun and games. You're working.
No, I believe it. Work so hard.
Yeah. All right.
So we drive down to the world-famous Peppermill,
Yeah,
which
very
is like
cool
a
place.
staple coffee shop of Las Vegas. Got to go there
Yes.
if you're in town. Meet up. By the way, shout out
Peggy,
Peggy.
who I guess maybe owns it.
We don't know.
Yeah,
She
but
definitely runs the
She
joint.
runs the show, and she couldn't have been more helpful. The place is packed. There's every table's got people sitting down because it's SEMA, so all these business people are up early to get breakfast with their clients and whatnot. And she was still very accommodating to get us a table with an electrical outlet, which is hard to do at a lot of places like that. So Peggy at the Peppermill, if you're ever there, give her a high five. She'll never remember us, but really
But
cool
she was
people.
awesome.
So we went there. We had breakfast. We talked about different things as what from Petey, like what it's like running a race team, how he's seen the sport change over the years. I believe he called Boris said some sort of derogatory term.
He had a couple.
Yeah, just things like that you'd expect from a guy that's been around forever, that's got a great sense of humor, and that was my take on the whole thing.
I'd never met Petey, which is funny considering
Okay.
we've been in the same circles forever.
Right.
And he was all right.
Once again, thanks to Honda for providing us the Honda Odyssey to take us 12,000 miles across 29 states. And of course, we couldn't have done that without great tires from,
Continental Tire.
there you go.
Cross Contact LX20.
Put the phone down. Stop with the, see? That's what you get.
Oh, what have I done? All right, goodbye.
All right, we're gonna start in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hey.
See, oh, wait. You know what? I have a pellet
problem.
case. Let me unblock you here. Disaster. All right, there we go. You got room?
What did I miss?
I threw up in the bathroom. Not in the long.
Sounds right.
Yep.
Hey, nice finally meet.
All right.
Oh, right.
Put on that headset. Yeah, it's great. We've never met.
I didn't realize that
I don't
until right
think
now.
Yeah.
Are we live?
to the masses. Who was it that this year thought we were live for like half an hour? There was somebody that was like, so if you're listening at home right now, go to my Twitter feed. We're like,
oh, no, yeah, you're right.
we're gonna have to edit that.
I cannot think of who that was. Whatever.
Yeah.
So.
How you feeling?
Good.
Yeah. So last night we had a Honda dinner before I went to the Continental party, which ended at our dinner ended at like 10:30.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, got to get home, got to get up early for a podcast.
No, I said for an appointment.
For an appointment, right?
Because
right.
I didn't want to blow our cover,
Right.
and then you blabbed it.
And I was like, well, I'm going out drinking. And I woke up about an hour ago, and I went to bed about 3 hours before that. So
So how you doing? Are you feeling
I'm
good?
hanging in there. Yeah. Not loving it.
No.
You're going to have to carry this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go.
Go.
Be funny. We don't have sound effects. Like we're wearing
Add
headsets.
those later.
We're
Yeah.
wearing headsets in the middle of a very busy diner right now, so I feel like we're like Mad Dog and Jimmy in the mornings.
right.
There's a long line to get in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we must have got it right because
We're big players.
We got clearly Peggy hooked us up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you been here, Peppermill?
I have not been to Peppermill.
Never heard of this thing.
I heard.
But there's like all kinds of people that we know here.
Yeah, it's like the entire SEMA convention is here. The couple of stints I've done in Vegas for other projects, this is kind of a good place to go at 7 or 8 in the morning because the food's okay. It's got a certain nostalgia to it. But at 7 or 8 in the morning, it's not that busy, except for SEMA, apparently, where everyone in the goddamn convention hall is here. I did not expect it to be this busy.
Yeah,
but-
I mean,
Are
every
we allowed
table.
to swear?
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, we're going to have to edit that.
So we're here during SEMA. Ryan was telling me this is like your 20th SEMA that you've been to.
Maybe 23rd. I was 11 when I first came.
But I mean, but specific to you, like SEMA doesn't have a lot of appeal to me because of the work I do and because I'm primarily just in the motorsports field, whereas obviously you do stuff beyond just motorsports, correct?
Not really. I mean, not to the extent that's going on here at SEMA. I mean,
Sure, yeah.
we don't do chrome fender lips or underbody lighting at RealTime.
Right. Okay. You also don't have a neck tattoo.
Not yet.
Or a
Can we
flat
work
bill
on
hat.
this?
But I
Yeah.
walked by 2 of them on the way here.
Okay, good.
Places. I'm
What
not
color
sure
are
which
your
one I'm going
socks?
to go to.
What color are your socks?
They're black.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
We're doing all right.
Okay.
You're getting. I guess we're starting from the ground up.
Does any of your so you probably don't know this, but
No.
PD runs RealTime Racing or RealTime Inc.,
RealTime R&L Inc.
runs the Stone Tire Driver Academy. Kind of
No,
like, what's
no,
it called?
no,
You explain it.
It's just any of their dynamic events for new tire introductions.
Okay.
You know, like a ride and drive program. We call it something different, but it's
Press programs, dealer programs.
dealer training, new tire launches for dealer principals, media, and we even do some teen driving
Nice.
events.
For all things Stone.
Well, they use
We're going to
Stone-
bleep out Stone, by the way, just so
Okay.
you know. It's just
The,
going to
the
be.
teen events use Stone tires on the event vehicles that we
Okay.
use, but the other events do competitive comparisons oftentimes.
Okay.
Starting out with your career, according to Wikipedia, you happened upon an autocross. That's the exact wordage. And that's something that you a contest held in a parking lot. After winning your class on the first day, he became enamored and engulfed in the sport. Did you write this? It's very well written.
Aaron may have written that.
Right. So when we met with Hurley Haywood earlier, he told us a story about how he got started, and he was doing an autocross in a Corvette, I think. And Peter Gregg showed up to this autocross with a truck and trailer, a car, and mechanics to an autocross.
Wow, that was probably something else, but way back when that might have happened.
Well, we were like laughing about it because it's like if that happened now, you just laugh that guy out of the parking lot. So talk about your first couple of years in the motorsports. You told me the story before.
Yeah, I mean, like specific to me, like I've always known you as the Honda guy or the Acura guy. And Ryan was telling me actually BMW is kind of where you started.
Nope.
No.
I didn't say that.
Ryan did not say that.
I said it certain times.
At certain times you had BMWs.
BMW.
All right.
Why
You
don't
weren't
you guys?
always-
Why don't you guys
Yeah.
just talk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Pete, hang out for a second.
Okay.
All right.
You weren't always a Honda guy.
So no, Sean had asked me about your endurance racing career,
That's right.
and I said at times you raced with the BMW factory team.
Right, 98 through part of 2001 with Team PTG BMW
that's
running
familiar.
E36 M3s and E46 M3s in American Le Mans or Grand Am or whatever series.
Whatever the hell they want to
They
call
were,
it.
they were competing series, so it was just kind of a hodgepodge of
Sure.
different series that we competed in.
Sure. But kind of going back to where you started it, so you go way before becoming kind of the Mr. Honda that you are today.
I started autocrossing in a Saab in 1980 and then RX-7s in 81, 82, 83, and then went road racing in 82, club racing, showroom stock.
And this was just you doing all your own prep?
Yeah, showroom stock, so there really wasn't that much to do, but
Right.
we had access to
Where'd you
people
grow
that
up?
could help.
Where'd you grow up?
Milwaukee,
Okay. So you've been in Wisconsin this whole time?
the whole time.
Nice. Okay.
Yep. But, yeah, I mean, to tell a little bit of the chapter there, and then in 1984 I ran back in a Saab 99 because I saw in the funny papers in the off-season that car was becoming eligible for the very popular class Showroom Stock C. And ended up doing pretty well in that season, 84. Won the Central Division Championship, won the June Sprints and some other national races. Went to the runoffs, which were always at Road Atlanta, and didn't do as well as we would have liked, but we were the best front drive car, at least, in a class of a bunch of Datsuns that were the hot ticket.
Sure.
But just through the luck of it, I met a fellow that was competing in the same club racing races that I was, but in a couple classes up. His name was Martin Dieperink, and we got to talking, and we decided to form a team the next year. So with my input and expertise, and that's with a small I and a small E, we formed this team, MPS Motorsports, and we used his Toyota Supra in the inaugural season of the Playboy Endurance Championship, and then with limited success, but we did all the races and had a good team and a growing team and whatnot. And then we switched to a Nissan in 1986, and did that, kind of did a partial season in what was then the Escort Endurance Championship and then the Firehawk Championship. And then in 87 switched to a Corvette and went up another class and had some cool co-drivers like Greg Pickett and David Hobbs at a couple of the long races. And, still didn't really win any races. I think we finished second at a 12-hour or a 24-hour at Mid-Ohio that year, 1987. But it was, that's kind of how that whole thing started. Now, rewind 1 year, having just done the Supra in 85 and the Nissan in 86, I basically cold called Honda because we knew there was this ice racing thing, and we had done some one-off events in like 83, 84, 85, and that's how I started with Honda then, which is kind of another story.
Okay. You caught my attention on ice racing. What?
Oh, yeah.
Well, they still do it today, but back in those days, it was kind of a cool deal. It was kind of a professional series with some pretty big names doing it.
Right.
And
these were cars on ice?
These are cars on ice, but with special tires that are studded, but not like a street stud, but a special Lindorfer stud that was very grippy. But so it was like driving on a gravel road, a very consistent mew, but just not, like asphalt. And it's not like rain, because when you're racing in the rain, you're not deliberately pitching the car to get it to go. Whereas in rallying on a gravel road, you're, doing the Scandinavian flick, and you're, tricking the car around the corner, steering with the back. So that was, something that we grew up doing in Wisconsin, and to do it wheel to wheel then was a pretty cool deal. And it turned out pretty well, and we ended up winning that championship in our first season. And that's how Honda then invited me to come to Sebring for the first Firehawk race to test.
Nice.
And it kind of went from there, but there was never any formality to it from there. It was just kind of like, okay, if you don't screw up, maybe you can come to the next one.
Right.
It's kind of like how we do it with Ryan today.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Sounds exactly the same.
And he's not fired yet, which is the shocking thing.
I got pictures.
So who was at that time? Because at that point you were in sort of, for lack of a better term, sort of some of the lower division classes you were racing. Who was like the big aspirational guy that everybody wanted to be like at that time?
I would say that the Archer brothers were people that I looked up to, because they were kind of in line ahead of me.
Okay.
And, throughout my career, they were kind of either, they were a contemporary, but yet they were kind of more established. They had their Renault International sedan on display, and I went up and talked to them, and I just remember thinking, I can just go up and talk to this guy.
Right.
He was just very gracious and talked to me, and was maybe a little bit blunt and to the point, but he would talk. He talked to me.
What does that mean in terms of like, kid, you're never gonna make it, or get the out of my trailer? Like, what does that mean?
Well,
Stop bothering me.
Yeah.
Beat it, Cunningham.
Years later, at an ice race party the night before the event, he was a little bit. I don't know if he was drinking iced tea or what he was drinking, but he was in a discussion with some other ice racing fellow about, but Bobby, I can't do that. I can't put a limited slip in my car because that's not legal. And Bobby looked at this guy and said, look, there's cheaters and there's losers. Which do you want to be?
Give me another iced tea.
And that's the philosophy we have here at RealTime.
And that's built the real-time legend. Yeah.
So how badly do you guys cheat today then?
Well, historically we've tried to stay on the right side of things, because when you're representing a company, it would be unfortunate to get caught with your hand in the cookie jar, for one thing, but it's a little more satisfying when you do it on the right side of the rules. But like the old adage, you're always pushing the envelope and interpreting the rules, but, I think we've tried to always run a pretty straight up deal.
Straight up forward kind of thing. I get that.
So at what point does the name Boris Said show up in your timeline?
That would have been 1988.
Right.
I think he had just gotten out of prison. The second time, but
Right.
it was a Corvette Challenge, and he showed up with a long head of hair and his Corvette on his open trailer behind a cube van, and just tried to do the deal. And people just looked at him and like, who is this clown?
Right.
Actually,
like-
they still say that today.
It's like 6'13", bushy-haired, random-ass guy walking
Right.
out of nowhere. Okay.
And it's, I knew a lot of the other guys that were in Corvette Challenge, like Stu Hayner and Andy Pilgrim
Right.
and the Archer brothers and Mark Wolokachuk and Lou Gelati. And
Pilgrim, also a dick.
Common
everybody
theme here.
says that about Andy Pilgrim.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No one
Not
likes
hear that a
fans,
lot.
if you ever see Andy Pilgrim, do not approach him.
Nobody likes that guy. If you never approach him.
Don't look him in the eye.
So anyway, I just talked to him one day, not at the first race, but maybe like the second or third race, and turns out we're the exact same age. Actually, I can imagine what you're thinking, that he seems much older than me, but we are. I think he's been in the sun a lot,
Sure.
but
You present better.
he and I just kind of hit it off and
Right.
became friends, and I could tell you a lot of
About to say, so where did this
Boris
friendship
Said
end?
stories.
When did it
So
all go
when did it
wrong?
all go wrong? Because from what I understand.
I think the day before yesterday,
Okay.
when he
Sent you a dick pic.
Want to see the real set head?
good one.
It's early.
How old do you think Sean is?
He's got an advantage.
Right.
But I'll let him finish before I tell him
I
what
would
the advantage
say 58.
is. The same age as Eddie Gossage. See, today I've shaved.
You actually look okay.
Yeah, I shaved. I
mean,
have shorter hair.
I'm really
Um,
hungover, so
yeah,
it might
yeah.
be the booze talking.
Yeah, but no, I shaved. I've got shorter hair. I'm not looking, and I didn't really sleep because I had to leave at 2 a.m. to get here in time. But it wasn't a 19-hour straight drive to Texas. Eddie Gossage thought I was in my late 40s.
Nice.
Deadpan.
Deadpan, not
Like,
joking.
No, like, right, guys. And then when we told him, no, he's 37. He didn't even like break. He's like,
Uh-huh. Right. Lies.
yeah.
I would have guessed mid-30s.
Okay. There you go. He's being generous.
I can say that now that you've told me.
One of my first experiences when I get hired at RealTime is you call me up and you're like, hey, can you go look at a car for me in Atlanta, street car? And I was like, yeah, no problem. And it's a 1986.
91.
Yep. Civic EX. What's the?
Real-time four-wheel drive wagon.
It doesn't have like a other thing.
It's a Civic.
Just a Civic rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. So I'd never seen one of these before, but it actually looks like you would expect like a little like almost factory-built rally car that's been toned down a little bit. So I go to meet some guy, and like on the drive over there, it starts to dawn on me. I'm like, I don't know PD that well. I'm still the new guy.
And now you're vouching for
And
a
now
car.
I'm vouching for a car, which I'm like, what if my standards are like,
Believe me, that happens.
right. And I literally was like sweating over it when I get there.
No.
And then he's also like, yeah, don't tell the guy how much we have to spend. He's like, give me all these rules, and I'm like,
The shop.
I'm gonna
I haven't driven and I'm already fired.
Right. And he's like, obviously, I haven't told the guy that, we're in racing or like we're Honda factory backed or anything, so don't bring it up. I'm like, yeah, no problem. So I get there and I get out of the car and he's like, Ryan Eversley. And I'm like, And he's like, yeah, I looked you up. I'm like, okay. And he's like, I know who PD is. I know the whole thing. I'm like,
Jig is up.
well.
And did you just run?
No, I gave it to him even worse.
Okay.
I'm like, we don't have any money.
We did end up buying that car.
Yeah.
after Ryan's recommendation. And
We FaceTimed, by the way. I immediately was like,
Yeah.
we FaceTimed, and I'm like walking around the car. And
So now you know how to FaceTime over 60?
Petey's really savvy with the technology
All right.
stuff. Yeah. He's got
Because you're
two
what,
iPhones.
76, 77?
wow,
Wow.
you really hold a grudge.
It's been at least 10 minutes.
You got to let this go, man.
Yeah, get over it. It was a joke. You don't have to
Now you're
embarrass
being a
me in front of our live audience.
Right. If you just turned in.
And here on Mad Dog in the Morning, live from the Peppermill. There's not one person without a goatee under 35.
To finish the point on the cars, in case we don't get back
That's
in that
very
vein, not everybody, and I've had a lot of people besides Ryan in our network of friends from different car communities go and look at cars, and the vast majority of them have done a very good job, and it's really been cool, and they've been very supportive, and we try to do something. But there, I don't think I'm going to name names.
You are.
But you would think that somebody that has been in the industry of automobile racing since before I was would
With the last
probably
name of-
have a pretty good sense of what is good and what isn't good. And I guess that's just not the case
You hear
all the
that?
time.
Bobby Archer's not listening, so it's fine. So when it comes, because like, I mean, you're kind of Mr. Honda, so I assume you have very specific tastes. But like, when it comes to pulling out old cars or looking at stuff that you want to buy or whatever it is you're working on, where would you say you fit on the sort of spectrometer of being finicky to just sort of taking it as is?
Well, I don't think anybody that is buying a used car wants to, look at certain flaws and just say, "Oh, it's fine." You want you want a perfect car, but no car is perfect.
Sure.
And some of the cars that I've purchased are placeholders because we need something to fill that particular
sort of void.
slot. But
Now, is this all for the museum?
sure.
Okay. We haven't really talked about the museum.
No, but we just got here.
Yeah, that's true. So there's a museum. In fact, I swear I'm looking at it. I'm looking at a T-shirt right now you're wearing called the RealTime Collection Hall. We're all over the place. Just accept this. So you're at the RealTime Collection Hall, and this is basically Ryan sold me stories poorly.
I was going to say about the BMWs.
about the BMWs.
Right.
But it's basically a giant collection hall with any number of generations of Honda within it.
Right. We've touted it as the finest privately held collection of early 2000 Hondas and Acuras. I don't know. No one stepped up and said, "Excuse me, I've got something here
I've
that
got
you
more
need to
than
look
you."
at."
Sure.
But it's probably also the largest,
Okay.
and
This is all in Wisconsin.
it's all in Wisconsin, and it's we don't have every old Honda, and every old Honda that we do have is not unbelievably mint, but we do have quite a few cars that are really nice examples, as Ryan may or may not.
I just told him about the
Attest.
BMWs.
Yep.
Yeah. So the common question I get about the RealTime Collection Hall is it open to the public? Which it isn't, but I'm pretty sure if somebody reached out to you and wanted to come see the collection, you would find the time to show them. Is that the general consensus?
Right. We couldn't charge enough people enough money to pay for the person we might hire to open the door.
Be there all day.
Yeah. I mean, these are not necessarily a mainstream collection of Ferraris or Shelby Cobras or something else with, more of a panache.
Do people show up and try to out-stump you on something like that? Pretend like they know more than you do on some stuff?
Not really. I'm sure that there's people that would be able to stump me, but it's not like they are lined up.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right.
There's no Sean Heckmans that.
With my vast knowledge of 86 Hondas.
Right. I worked at the Saab Aero Academy for about 7 years at Road Atlanta, and Saab owners as a group
Oh, believe me,
are
met them.
strange people.
They are.
And it's so
It's like a rule to get in.
right. The consistency amongst the oddness over the years was amazing. So I remember you were telling me about owning or racing Saabs at one point, and I was like, oh boy.
No, I mean, there's different. You can tell a Alpha owner
Right.
from a Saab owner, from a Porsche owner,
Right.
and they all have their idiosyncrasies, but there's definitely a special breed of people that are into Saabs,
Right.
and they are into them.
Like, if you buy a Saab, it's probably your 8th or 9th or 10th one. Like,
Yeah.
they always buy more and more and more.
Well, back in the day, see, my mom had Saabs in the 70s, so that's how I became exposed to them. And back in those days, you would flash your lights when you'd see a Saab coming the other way, and they would always flash back. Now, even 20 years ago, if you flash, all you get back is
the finger.
the
Yeah.
finger. It's like what are you doing? No one. So
Nothing.
They lost that whole.
Right.
Yeah,
now everybody just hates everybody.
Yeah, that's part of the fun.
Yeah.
So actually, how would you label the Honda collector, so to speak? Like Saabs are kind of a unique breed. Like forget the exotics, the Ferraris and the Porsches, but like Saabs are kind of a unique breed. Volvo guys typically have this like false sense of bravado. Usually
You've told me about this.
No, I can't stand Volvo guys.
Yeah,
Like, and that's
they're
the thing. It's
boxy,
like,
but they're safe.
well, no, and that's fine. Like I have no problems with the product of Volvo.
We're going to lose like 7 listeners
Yeah, I
over
don't
this.
On the chart, though, they are not far away from their Swedish brothers.
Right. Yeah, but you don't like.
No.
The
And I
Volvo
base this purely on my
tuner.
experience with the Volvo tuning community.
And it's
because-
not even like the new cars. 'cause they
No,
have,
they're
like, the new
always
cars
yeah.
that are
No.
pretty
It's
cool.
always like some
It's the old
1992
square
bucks.
wagons.
Yeah. Like they've got like I know guys who put louvers on, and you're like, what the fuck, man? Like look at all that downforce you're generating with those louvers on your boxy.
I
my
own
point
one
is-
Volvo now. Again, I'm not gonna. Just so you know, I'm not gonna do another one of these if you ask me.
So let's get it all out now.
You're kind of
Let's
a
do
prick.
it now.
Yeah.
But so my point is, where would you scale sort of the obviously we're all very pro Honda at this table, but where would you scale sort of the Honda owner in terms of like character
I
traits?
think they're certainly a special breed, but they're pretty good guys.
It seems like a normal.
Yeah, my take has always been much more normal guys, and they
Yeah.
appreciate what the,
They're
the
very
kind of the
loyal.
legacy of
Yeah.
Honda. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're very loyal. They are very knowledgeable. They know the nomenclature. Oh, that's an EF. Oh, that's a
Right.
K24. And
Right.
I don't. I mean, I probably know the BMW
But they never do
secret
this.
codes better than I
Right.
know the Honda ones, because in my world I don't refer to them that way, but I've kind of picked up on it over the years
Yeah.
too. But it's still like an Integra Type R is a DC2.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know that. Right, yeah.
But that's part of the VIN, and just the
Sure.
cool kids, they all know that, and
Right,
it's
right.
I'm just now catching up.
But what's cool like about a Honda guy is you've never been told that with somebody with a Pops collar.
No,
Like nobody's ever come in with like
Well,
Oakleys and a pop collar.
No, that can't be true, because if you look at the tuning history of Honda, like the mid '90s,
Yeah.
if you had a Civic, it had to have a Coke can exhaust on it, or a
Coffee can.
can
Yeah, yeah.
exhaust. You know what I mean? So there's had to have been, like, at that peak time of tuning for Honda products, Type R was out. Any Civic SI, you had to be getting kids at every race coming up, especially because at the time RealTime was really hitting their stride with the Type R program. You had the NSX program in World Challenge. I drove a Subaru twice, in once in World Challenge, once in
Yeah,
IMSA,
I remember this.
and a kid came up to me at Barber, and he's like, "Oh man, how much horsepower are you guys making?" And I was like, "Oh, I think like 480," and he just looked at me so devastated, because he's like, "My street car's got 700." I was like, "I didn't do this."
Yeah.
That's had to happen to you with kids coming up with like turbo kits and
Yeah, I
crazy
mean obviously
builds.
you have the relatable car in the paddock,
right,
so to speak.
right, and it's probably the most tuned car in North America for a long time at that point. Yeah. So any stories that come to mind of kids coming up just like devastated that you don't have more mods?
Well, Eric Foss.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
We're at
Yeah.
St. Petersburg, and the TSX with the 4-cylinder.
Right.
And I'm racing against him in a Mustang, and he asked me how much horsepower we had.
Right.
And I think I told him that we had 275. He just started laughing. You don't have 275 horsepower, you liar. And I said, yeah, at the crank. And then he busted a gut.
Yeah.
He thought I meant 275 at the wheels.
Right.
And I'm like, hey, buddy, sorry, that's all we have. And he just walked away from me going, that liar. He's got so much more horsepower. But we didn't.
Right.
You know, those cars were just doing a lap time a little differently than a Mustang.
Our first few interactions, I didn't know if you were like messing with me or if you were serious. You know, I'm like, is that guy deadpanning me right now, or is he being funny? Because you'll dry humor people that don't know you very well, and I think it's like your own internal fun game. You know, you're just like, I'm gonna see how long I can keep going. Because like sometimes you'll make comments to me when we're driving to the track or something, and I'm like, I'm just gonna ignore that because I don't know if he's with me or not.
I'm usually with people.
It's all the time.
Rarely would I be making a comment that isn't attached to some irony or something silly.
One of my favorite PD-isms is the word mope, which I never heard before.
Mope, the adjective?
Like
This mope?
Right.
Yeah.
I've heard like
that would be a noun.
Oh, right. Welcome to PD Cunningham.
No. What's funny is I thought about like, yeah, you're right. It's a fucking noun.
Yeah. So PD is like he's very focused on having the proper grammar in all situations.
Fair enough. Have you met Landon Castle?
Pardon me?
Have you met Landon Castle?
No.
NASCAR driver.
You'll like him.
Yeah. We just had him on a couple.
He has a similar attitude.
Yeah. You'll never find a typo or a misspelling or the wrong word usage in a real-time press release.
About to say, there went my PR gig with real-time.
He'll actually.
I don't know about that, but I certainly try to not mess that stuff up.
And now he has me doing it. Like, I'll see a real-time, like yesterday we had an Instagram post go up and it posted twice in the text. So it was the same. And I was like, oh, no. I was like, Petey, quick. Take it down.
And I totally appreciated that. But I had already fixed it.
Right.
Because after I posted it, I realized, well, what the hell happened here? How did this happen? But it did.
Right.
And then even later, the Instagram thing wasn't reloading properly. But I think it was fixed.
I would have seen that like 2 years ago and been like, that's weird.
Right.
But I was like, oh, he's not going to like that. We got to fix that
right now.
We got to fix that. Yeah. From some of the stories you've told me along the lines of our last couple years together, what's the best rental car Boris said story you have?
Well, I think the best rental car Boris said story would have to be when he rented a Mustang to use as his parts car for his maybe first escort endurance race.
Okay. Yes,
at Road Atlanta. And he hadn't run any races, so to fill out the form to get his license in the first place, he just made up on what races he had done for starters. Okay. And, they gave him a license.
Here you go, kid.
Right. And so he somehow had a Mustang race car, but it was ill-prepared.
Yeah.
And he showed up with no crew. So he goes out and no co-driver. I don't know if he used a bogus name for a co-driver, but basically he would go and start the race and run out of gas, come in, get out of the car, refuel the car, change the tires to the Mustang rental car tires, or at least the wheels, and get back in. Well, somehow by himself, no co-driver, no crew, and he just was like, hey, I want to go racing, and this is how I'm going to go racing.
Yeah.
So eventually, Terry Earwood's daddy caught wind of this Chief Stewart up in the tower, and it's like he gets Boris up there, and of course Boris just gives him this very sad story.
Right.
You gotta let me go back out, and they're like, no. But that just shows you his perseverance. That
he was going to do it.
He decided he was going to go racing, and he went racing.
Right.
So that's a pretty good deal. We were teammates for No Fear in 1992 in the Firehawk with a Dodge Stealth.
Okay.
And it was a front drive V6 Dodge Stealth. It wasn't the four-wheel drive like the Mitsubishi
VR4 thing. Yeah.
So we were tied for points, of course, and we never could get the pole because these Talons were just so much faster than us.
Right.
But it was raining at Watkins Glen when I was doing the rally, as a matter of fact. It was that weekend. And so somehow Boris and I were both out qualifying because it was raining and we wanted to have both cars up front or whatever. And it may have been like a drying condition slightly, but it was just still very wet.
Sure.
And we were like exchanging fast laps, and I'm like not getting the information on the radio. And kind of in a Sebastian Vettel kind of way, like this recent Formula One race where he was getting frustrated. You know, you're emotional.
Choice words.
And I made some very PD-like remark about, you know, I asked a particular question and they gave me an answer to a different question. And I said over the radio, I don't recall that being the question. And as it turned out, that jerk, Boris, beat my time to get the pole. And because he got one more point than me, you know, of course he was going to finish higher in the points than me.
Yeah.
But when it came down to the end of the year, he won the championship and I finished 4th. Because he won the championship over Peter Farrell and his teammate in a Turbo RX-7 on a tiebreaker, and then I was 1 point behind them.
Wow.
So I carry this dumbass to the championship. Clearly, you know, he couldn't find the grid without me pointing him in the right direction. And then I carry him to the thing, and then he gets all the glory. He kisses the girl, and I'm just like, I never won a Firehawk championship because I always was doing.
Boris said's a douche. Right.
Well,
so,
in fairness, where did he go with his career?
Yeah, I mean, Boris who?
Never heard of him.
Exactly.
So you mentioned you were doing a rally at the time.
Yeah.
You and I did one earlier this year, which was that this year?
That was this year.
Yeah, that was this year.
Yeah,
it all blurs together.
I know.
The podcast has a way of ruining your life. You were telling me when we were doing the recon, you were so excited that we actually got to do it because you used to do blind rallies.
Right.
Where it was just like, all right, there's the road, go.
Basically, you have 2 white canes on the bumper with red stripes. No, not that kind of blind rally.
Like, I know he's f***ing with me.
See?
I know he's like, but I'm going to let him finish in case I'm wrong.
In North America, in my era of rallying back in 92, 93, they were what is called a secret rally, which means that you don't get to pre-run the course. You get the route book, and you have a co-driver, but frankly, you know, you're on your own. What you see out the windshield is what you're driving, and the co-driver is going to tell you if there's a hairpin or a dangerous
But it's based on the
gully.
notebook. He's not seen it.
So in North American rallying, what pays dividends is experience driving rally roads and reading the road,
reading the trees,
seeing the tree lines and knowing, and just having the flavor of the roads. So a secret rally, and as a young man trying to go rallying, it's who doesn't want to die. You can't just flat-foot it over a brow because the road might take a turn and then you go sailing off into the trees, and you know
you don't have 2 spare cars behind you. I mean, you're racing what you got.
So certainly some of that same experience pays dividends in today's rallying, but the fact that we got to at least see the road one time.
Yeah, you were super pumped about it, and I was like, okay, I don't get it, but all right, you know.
Yeah.
So we go to this rally, which Honda invited us to come do, in a B-spec Honda Fit, which if you watch those cars on track, not exciting to watch. Fun to drive.
Sure.
They put on a good race, but if one of them's by themselves, you're not sure if it's under caution or not. That's how slow they are. Fast forward to driving one in the woods, it's terrifying. Well, it's terrifying if you're in the passenger seat and PD's driving because you're like, okay, I know this isn't that fast comparatively, but it's still pretty intimidating.
The straightaways are a lot longer, but so you try to make it up in the corners as if you can, but we did. We were doing pretty well considering the performance potential of our car compared to the performance potential of, you know, these 4-wheel drive turbocharged cars.
The funny story that I take away from there's 2, but one of them is you get to these because Sean, you've never done a rally, I don't think, right?
No.
Yeah. So you have to check in on time for the next stage to begin, and if you get there early, you basically wait in a queue.
Right.
And if it's a backed up queue, if there's a crash and they have to stop the course to like go rescue a car or whatever, you have like 20 minutes to kill. So you get out and you pee, because you're in the car all day long.
But basically, you have to be at the start line. If you miss your start time,
you get a penalty.
Yeah.
And if you're early, you get a penalty. So you have to go in at your minute.
And so you don't speed between stages.
Right. I think that's
and
the
it's
idea.
really, if you're getting penalties, there's something really weird going on, or you just made a mistake. The rallies are won and lost by your stage times, more often than not.
Yeah.
But so the co-driver's role at that point is only to not screw that part up, because
keep your eye on the watch.
Right. Exactly.
I'm sorry, but you were saying.
So we get to one of these deals where somebody fires it off in the woods and they have to stop the stage, and we're delayed for like, let's say 30 minutes. So everybody gets out, or bullshitting in this little group, and there's this guy that has an old school RX-7, like a 1980s, normally aspirated.
First gen RX-7.
First gen, yeah. And he's like, we're wearing Hans devices. And he's like, why, I don't know how you guys wear those things. And we're like, well, you have a frontal impact.
Yeah, I know exactly why you wear them.
Yeah, and I'm like, I shouldn't have to
Explain
this, but sure. And so I'm kind of like, well, like one big hit, it pays for itself. And he's like, yeah, well, in 25 years, I've never had this front bumper's never been touched.
You only hit things with the back.
That's right. You never hit anything with the front end of these cars. Yada, yada, yada. He's behind us.
Yep.
Right?
Naturally.
So we go through the stage. We get through.
Okay.
And they start you like every minute.
Usually every minute.
And I think they were starting quicker because we were delayed.
Sure.
Maybe it was 2 minutes and they went to a 1 minute.
Right, something like that. So we get to the end, and the guy's like, when you get your time card, the guy's like, did you pass anybody off? Like, was there anybody off the road? And we're like, no. You're like, oh, okay, have a good one. And we keep going because they're not sure if it was in front or behind us where the incident happens because it's not like corner workers.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
You have the
right.
beginning and the end.
Reporting.
And so we're like, no. And he's like, all right, see ya. So we go on to the next stage. So you basically do like 4 or 5 stages, and then you drive 40 miles or whatever back to Park for May for the break.
Service.
Yeah, you get a period of time to do that. We get there, and here's this RX-7. The roof's caved in. The front bumper is almost firewall deep. The back bumper's destroyed. He basically went straight in, hit a tree, rolled it, destroyed the thing, and we were losing our shit.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously he was okay, and we made sure of that. But it's like, in 25 years, I've never hit the front end on anything. And the next stage, he destroys the car, and it's like, yeah, hey, buddy.
In all my years of racing, when I declare something's not going to happen, it never does.
The airport's never lost my luggage.
Right, not once. That was crazy. And then we ended up crashing out. We had the right rear hub lockup, or that's what we thought at the time. So basically, gravel blast will stretch the handbrake cables.
Yep.
And our car didn't have a shield
Something
over
to
that.
sort of prevent all the gravel.
Right. So basically, we're going through like a pretty fast
downhill.
We go through a pretty fast right-hander that then leads into a R or L3 downhill into a creek crossing. And as we come around the left-hander, like the thing just rotates more than it normally would.
I thought Ryan pulled a handbrake.
Yeah, and so he's like full throttle, which doesn't really do a whole lot in a B-Spec car, but the heart was in the right place. And
meanwhile, the right rear is completely locked.
Yeah, and so we're going like down this ditch sideways that then leads into a creek. So we nose it straight in, like huge. Like I thought we were going to go over.
Way too much speed.
Yeah, like we're just we're not going to make it.
Yep.
We jump,
and then we heard the music.
Before that, this thing goes in so hard, nose in. I thought we were going to land on the roof, like it was going to, nose
how
in.
How thick is this creek?
It's barely 6 inches deep. It's just this little water crossing.
It's maybe like.
But you're not having that moment like, I got to get out quick because
No. It's not like that.
Okay.
I was just more concerned that we were going to roll.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, this is big.
Yeah.
So we go in straight, and the thing like skips out, and we land in the gravel trap, and it's a big impact.
Right.
Before we've landed, Petey's already like grabbing first gear, like trying to go. Yeah, and I'm literally like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "We're done, man." He's like, "No, you got to keep going." So we're trying to get out. We don't really move. I get out. The right front is like shoved. The wheel is shoved into the chassis,
Ooh.
so I can't get my door open without like, all this metal broken. We broke a we broke a drive shaft on the right side.
Right. It
just snapped the thing, and so we're like, we're stuck here. So we get out, and that's when the music starts up, and we hang out with some of Missouri's.
And just to replay the music, it sounded like. Go ahead, do it.
Is that before your time?
No, we recognize it. Just in case in the edit it doesn't completely come through.
Yeah.
The banjos kick in.
Right, it's red. It's really red.
And we
have no self-service.
And they've got beer.
Yeah. Got beer. They got barbecue going.
Nice.
And so they're like, well, you boys are here for a while. Have a drink.
Yeah.
And we're like, are we here for a while? Like, can we leave? We have no cell reception. You're in the middle of nowhere in Missouri woods.
Sure.
And now the realization kicks in, like our crew with Paul and Greg, they're like 45 miles away.
I'd say, well, and you don't have corner workers.
Yeah, and it's not like we can be like, oh, we're in that one spot in the woods on
Call the
stage
helicopter.
12. And it happened to be like a 12-mile stage, which is pretty long for these rallies.
Right.
So we basically get tow straps. So they literally take one Chevy truck on one end and then a Ford truck on the other end with tow straps, and we pull the control arm out of the right front chassis, and it's literally like redneck engineering at its finest. Like there's creaking and popping, and we're just waiting to see, like, we're going to be on YouTube tomorrow.
Yeah,
you know what I
exactly.
mean? When
With the
thing
chain
snaps
breaking and hitting us in the head. But we had our Hans device.
Right,
on,
but we're
so.
okay. They get us out of that part, and then they're like, okay, we tell. This is the cool thing about rally. Like, it's so like just got to do what you got to do to get sorted out. So this Lancer Evo comes down the hill, goes into the creek too hot, cakes the whole front end in water. Like, it goes into the intake, and the thing immediately sounds like it throws something, in the motor, and they like pull over and stop. And so we're like, oh, well, they're here for a while. And we're like, do you guys have a cell phone that's working? Or, like, do you have radio with anyone? They're like, no. So they wait for the engine to dry out. They get it fired up again. And we basically have to, like, send a note with them. Like, you got to find this guy in Park Ferme from our team. Tell him where we are. Tell him, like, to come find us. We'll wait at the stage exit.
Wow.
If we get there. And so they just go away. And we're like, okay. And you don't know if, like, 10 seconds later they're like, me.
Yeah, they're like
who? What was his name?
What was I doing?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So they just drive away. We never see him again.
Thanks,
and
Dory.
so we get us sort of fixed. We realize that the right rear hub is locked, so we disconnect the handbrake.
Yeah, we didn't know what happened until then.
Right.
That how we ended up off the road. We thought, we just were too hot.
Yeah, right. And so I jack up the car, and the wheel, like, won't turn at all.
Right.
So I just disconnect the handbrake, and it's like freewheel. I'm like, okay. We weren't using the handbrake.
Right.
Like, we never
touched
used
the
it once.
handbrake.
Right.
So
But
it's
we
like,
knew there was something going on with it, so it all pieced together right then.
Yeah, because early in the day, we would smell brakes, when we
And
were
not
barely
have
even
any clue
using
where
it.
it was
And we were
coming
like,
from.
that's
Sure.
weird. Yeah.
Right.
The power of the fit engine overcame any of the drag.
Yeah, it was
we
good.
didn't notice
It's
it.
good to go. So they get us out, and they're like, all right, you got like 30 minutes to get off the stage, and then it's going to start again. So
So we go upstream.
we go the opposite direction because it's a shorter distance out,
what you gotta do.
and we can't even make it up the first hill. So they have to tow us to the top of the hill. But then once we got to the top of the hill, we could actually
just coast.
get back to the.
we could go at like 25 miles an hour,
Right.
but we didn't
On
dare
one wheel.
go any faster because the whole thing was going to, fall
Oh, yeah.
apart.
The right front isn't fixed. It's just been pulled back out.
Right.
You know what I
Right,
mean? So
right.
at any point, like, we're
thing
going
was
down the
just
highway once we get off the stage, and we're just like both sitting in this thing, just waiting for it to
waiting.
just like hang a hard right into the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we get out, and we're sitting at the end of the stage, just like two dudes in the woods. Like, all we have is like the FM radio and our phone, which, like, we don't have any service, so we're just listening to iTunes. And then periodically we have a two-way radio, which is like, and who's going to hear it? So we're just sitting there every 5 minutes, like, radio check, nothing. We're there for like an hour, and finally it's like, radio check, like, where are you guys? We're like, oh, it worked.
We're gonna make it.
There was no other plan.
We're gonna make it.
So they finally find us, and then they follow us into town, which is like a 40-mile drive back to Park Ferme, and this thing is shaking like crazy
Right.
as we're going down the highway
for a
with, like,
solid hour and a half.
for an hour. You know what I mean? This is like cool.
But we made it.
But we made it, yeah. And then we drove to. We had like a 2-hour drive back to St. Louis on top of that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's why it was like, hey, we actually have to get out of here, or we're not going to get our flight home tomorrow.
Flat Bill, did you not bring him?
He did not make.
He's in the car.
Yeah,
But our car's like,
it's in a parking lot
3 blocks
at
away.
the Encore.
Right.
Can I tell a Flat Bob story?
Yes.
yeah.
We talking Bob Riley?
No.
Okay.
Bob Hope.
Okay.
Never heard of him.
Well, let me just tell you. Sean can tell you. He remembers.
Yeah, he's old.
I'm
Yeah.
old. I'm 48.
So I'm at my first summer race for Honda
Okay.
at Sebring at beautiful Lake Wales Hotel.
Ooh, fancy.
And I went out to eat dinner with the crew, and we get back from dinner, and we were in a good mood, let's put it that way.
Right.
And here's Bob Hope in the lobby, Flat Bob Hope, selling insurance, some kind of insurance.
So there's like a cardboard.
He was, yeah. So
Bob
there's a
Hope
cardboard
with
Bob
like
Hope
pamphlets.
So I got the great idea that we need to steal
Take him with you.
Bob
Absolutely.
Hope. So I did. I take him. We go into the elevator and we're laughing. We have a big time, and it's like, okay, now what are we going to do? So by the time the next morning came around, I figured out that, I'll just put him in my garment bag and take him out. So I take my garment bag out the next morning without attracting any suspicion, and we take him to the track, and we seat him in the CRX passenger seat.
Okay.
and we go out on track. And,
And of
wow,
course,
did we get
I'd
in
say,
trouble.
'cause- so if you're a corner worker, and
It
you're not
looks
looking
like
right.
Bob Hope
Yeah,
is
Bob
in the
Hope, but Bob Hope without a suit, without a helmet.
Right.
Right. Just Bob Hope just in a
Just
passenger
Bob
seat of a
Hope's-
race car.
Oh, did they get upset? They did not find it amusing at all. I'm sure they have a whole new regime at IMSA now that would have understood the joke a little bit more than.
One thing I'll say about you is if you look at the history of real time, you've had employees there for a really long time. Why? Like, why do people want to stay at real time?
And to share some perspective outside of real time, turnover on a race team is usually a really good sign about the environment. So in other words, if you've had guys that have been there forever, chances are it's a good working environment. If there are new guys every year, chances are it's not so good.
Right.
But
yeah.
Why is it so great to work at real time?
Well, I think we have a good culture.
Yeah.
I think we know how to have fun, as much as it can be a pain in the ass and a ton of work. But yeah, I mean, there was a time that we could say that we never even had anybody leave. That we just kind of kept getting bigger,
Right.
but no one left. But yeah, we're very fortunate to have the group that we have, and I think right now we have the best group that we've ever had. I think everybody has the passion. They get paid well, I think, but you have to have the passion. I remember there was this one kid who worked at the Toyota dealership, like doing oil changes all day or whatever, and he got the opportunity to come to a test with us down in Texas and kind of see if he wanted to join the team. And we had a good test, everything was good, and it seemed like it might be a good fit that this kid would join the team. And we get back and he's like, no, I think I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing, going to the Toyota dealership, punching the time clock, going and changing oil on old Camrys, and then punching out and then starting his life again. And that's just not what it's like on probably any race team, but certainly at real time. They're there because they want to be there, and yeah, they are compensated, and they're compensated well, and all of that, I think. But yeah, they're there to do a job and to work together and try to win.
But to your exact point, no one's going to work in racing who's just a 9-to-5 guy because you can't base it on the hours you're working as much as the tasks you have to complete in order to be ready for a race or whatever it is. And so at the end of the day, pay matters to anybody working in the sport, but at the end of the day, no one's there because they're getting paid well, because you can always get paid better somewhere else outside of the sport. Is there a kind of an ethos that you instill in the guy, or a freedom that you give them that maybe other teams don't have?
It's possible, but I don't think that we have those written down. There's not anything formal about it. I think it's just the culture, and we don't try to define it too much. We don't get too philosophical about that, but I think the guys most of the time are pretty glad they work for real time.
Yeah. What teams you've worked with? Do they do a Christmas party?
Yeah,
And
a couple of them do.
And what's the Christmas party like?
The Christmas party, I can only speak for one team. It's
Okay.
actually one of Pete's
Pete?
favorite race teams.
Who?
Pete.
I don't know
One
anybody
of
named Pete.
PD's favorite race teams out in Santa Ana, California.
Okay.
They do a Christmas party every year.
Right.
I've never been invited.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm just the PR guy that's contracted. So
Sure.
and I actually am okay with that because I'm not a full-time staff member. But they do a dinner.
It's good that
Yeah.
you don't hold a grudge.
So real time has a Christmas party.
Yes.
Last year, I flew up for it, and I didn't think it would be like a big deal or whatever, but it was at a bowling alley,
Oh,
and it got serious. Like the guys are like really into bowling. I had no idea.
Once a year, but yeah.
Once a year they get really into it. Yeah,
They're not like
exactly.
on a league or
no,
anything.
No. But it was like, I think if you picture like the normal like race team Christmas party, everybody's in like a dorky sweater, and you're like, hey,
Yeah.
how are you? It literally was like, all right, get on the lanes, let's do this.
Right.
And it was like really fun. And I think that was like maybe the final like awareness to like what a good team it is, because like people were coming from all over
Yeah.
to be there.
And I'll put a different spin on this because I f***ing hate Christmas parties.
Okay.
This is going to be released right around Christmas party time. But no, I have a fucking...
Happy holidays,
I
everyone,
have
from Sean
no,
Ekman.
Here's the f***ing thing about Christmas parties. Here's every Christmas party almost. Like you said, you show up in your f***ing sweater and you're bringing the girlfriend, the wife, the husband, whatever. And then it's like, oh, yeah, here's my girlfriend. Oh, yeah, this is my husband. Let's have a drink.
Yeah.
On to the next person. And
Right.
then that's f***ing it.
Yeah, no,
And
literally,
then
it
the
was
only-
like,
yeah.
get out there and throw
Well,
some.
that's what I'm saying. But this is a party based on an activity.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
a huge advocate. If you're going to have a party, have a thing.
And
that
we have a
everybody can
trivia
do.
contest
Yeah,
prior to
thank
that.
you.
That's right.
Okay,
There's a trivia
that's good.
contest. That
That's
was
good.
really cool, too. And, like, everybody, you get paired up in random teams and
Right.
stuff, and PD hosts it. And
But it's activity centered.
Yeah.
Which I'm a f***ing advocate
Yeah,
for.
it was.
so.
It's really fun, but it's cool to see the guys want to be there after hours.
And we have
you
it
know what I mean?
catered by a different restaurant, the Anvil in Cedarburg, Wisconsin, if you're ever driving by.
Yeah.
And they put on, we're in a bowling alley and we're eating filet mignon
Yeah.
and,
Yes.
and, some pretty top shelf food, not,
Well, I'd imagine a Wisconsin bowling alley is quite the scene.
well,
They take their drinking
Milwaukee
serious.
Yeah.
used to have the Pro Bowling Association national headquarters.
Oh.
Makes sense.
It has since moved.
to
But-
Racine.
So, World Challenge. You, Real-Time's been in it since 1990, if my Wikipedia research is correct.
No, it's
Which I
not.
did.
Sorry.
Next question.
All right. Done. I'm out.
I have been in World Challenge
Ah.
since its inception in 1990.
Okay.
And by the way, it really started in 1985 as an endurance championship. And starting, so from 85 through 89, it was just endurance. And then in 1990, they decided to add some sprint races. So they changed the name
Right.
from Escort Endurance Championship to Escort World Challenge. And
I kind of like the name Escort Endurance Championship.
Yep. But all the same people were there. It wasn't like, oh, this is a new series. It was just
Right,
the same
right,
people
right.
carrying over.
Right,
and I
sure.
like to tell that story because officially this championship is only, 27 years old,
Right.
where in fact it's another 5 years
almost 30,
beyond
right?
that
Yeah.
because it started in 1985. But I drove for the Special Projects Honda team in 1990, and then I raced like one E30 M3 at Des Moines in 91 and won with it. And I also had the worst race of my career that year at Road America in an E30 M3.
What defines worst race?
Well, after winning Des Moines with this overdog BMW in whatever they called the class,
Yeah.
I think it might have been SP, I wanted, and I didn't really have a lot going on, so I called up TC Klein, who I had driven for, and Firehawk and different Honda stuff, and he had this E30 M3. So we worked out a deal that was something affordable for me and was based on performance, and we'd split the prize money or whatever it was. So we go to Road America, a track that I've been to before,
Seen it
and
up close.
I just barely squeak out the pole, and at the start of the race, a couple guys went by, and I was like not really worried because I knew that I had the car, and I didn't want to make them look stupid.
Right.
But a rock came and hit me in the front of the car, unbeknownst to me.
Right.
So on like lap 2, I'm like smelling smoke, and the oil pressure is starting to fall, and I'm like, oh, I'm not, I'm screwed. This is
Yeah.
it. So I realize what's going on. So I'm heading from turn 3 to turn 5, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to get back to the pits. So instead of slowing down and taking a left to go up the hill at turn 5, I go sailing off the road, just barely missing the guys that are in front of me, but it's all, controlled, and I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I autocross through the chicane of the tires,
cut-through.
the offset
Yeah.
tires,
Yeah.
and I come up to the public road there, in the paddock, and there's people everywhere, and I turn right, and if you've ever seen a rally on TV, like from the Group B era, where everybody's in the
Everyone's
road
standing
and the
around.
car's coming and everybody gets out of the way. Well, that's what was going on. I'm sailing up the hill, and people are flying off the road to not get hit by this
Right.
crazed
You're
maniac.
pulling a Pumpelli. Right.
But
Yeah.
I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
I'm completely in
I'm good.
control.
Yeah.
And then
I
as
like
I'm
the pre-defense, so something's up.
yeah.
Okay.
So I get up to the mock grid entry, and there's a guy that's like not sure which way to go.
Yeah.
Turns out it's Greg Hobbs.
Okay.
He'll never, he almost died that day, but he's like, I'll go. No, so finally he gets out of the way, and I go sailing up that road, and I come up. My pit, Al Tom was my crew chief, and he looks at the car and can we fix it? Can we fix it? Meanwhile, there's a yellow, so if we could have fixed it, I could have been back out at the tail end of the lead lap and maybe still had a chance to either place or still do well with this overdog. And no, it's done.
Okay.
So I get out of the car, I take my gloves off. Doug Robinson, who was part of the series at that point, came up and we talked. I told him, this is what happened, blah, blah, blah. Take my helmet off, and it's like, well, I guess we're done. And in fact, the first annual RealTime Chicken Roast was about to take place.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So basically we go down and, start eating chicken and drinking beer.
Right.
And all of a sudden, call to the tower. So Charlie Earwood's up there, and they are not amused. They are absolutely, ready to call the police because of just how terrible
all this reckless driving you were doing through the track.
And I'm like, what? Really?
Like, you guys messing with me? Yeah.
So they disqualified me from my last place finish.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Good.
No points.
And they banned me for the next 2 races,
Wow.
which didn't matter because I didn't have a ride for the next 2 races.
We showed him.
And it was just like, the whole day could have been a fantastic day, but instead that happened.
Yeah.
And I think later Sean Hendricks might have given Boris some moonshine, and Boris got all drunked up, which he never did. And I might have taken his rental car keys and thrown them into the woods.
Well, I will say, if that's your worst race, that's not so bad.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's really not the That's not the worst
I've
race
had way
I've
worse.
heard
In
of.
answer to your question, though, RealTime started in 1993.
And having never known you and before Ryan's time, I mean, I've always associated RealTime with those awesome NSXs from years ago, and the fact that you guys are still around. I mean, you are, to me, probably the most staple team of World Challenge Series.
We certainly had more entries than any other team by far because oftentimes we had 5, 6, 7 cars.
Right.
Most of the time, probably an average of 5 entries. It's only been in the last few years we've only had 2 entries.
I want to say you guys have set a few records in that process, right?
Go ahead.
I don't know the stats, but Ryan, you do. Oh, no. Okay.
7-time drivers champion?
I am.
You are. 11-time champions for the teams?
I won 7 times. Pierre won 5. Pierre Kleinebing.
Yeah.
Great dude.
He's all right.
And Michael Galati won 2 championships. So 14 drivers championships. And then we won 4 manufacturers championships for Honda in those early years, 93, 94, 95, 96. And then switching to Acura, we've won 10 manufacturers championships for Acura since then. And to be fair, there were other Acura teams in some of the years that also contributed, so it wasn't solely a RealTime.
Does that make RealTime the winningest Honda team in racing history?
I don't know that they have a page for that in their book.
You hear that, Mike Shank? You better step the up. You hear that, Mike Shank? You better step the up, Mike Shank.
He's not listening.
He's not listening to this.
He's listening to his on repeat.
All right, let's pull Ryan out of the conversation for a second. You've had Pierre Kleinebing, Galati. Did Eric Curran drive for you?
Eric Curran drove. Hugh Plum, Matt Plum.
Oh, geez. Okay, so this is going to make for an excellent question.
Kuno Whitmer, Brandon Davis.
Kuno Whitmer, who Bill Riley hates.
Yeah, but he's Bill can hate him all he wants. He's still a beautiful man.
He's gorgeous, but he's also
man.
He's a douchebag, according to Bill Riley.
So
Bill Riley's words.
This is my question. Pull Ryan out. Biggest douche.
Oh, put me back in.
Ryan out.
Put me back in. Put me back in.
No, you're out. I'm going Curran. Is it Curran? Tell me it's Curran.
Curran is a dick. He's not a douche.
The ball busting that takes place with Petey and all the old school World Challenge guys is pretty phenomenal.
Who took it the best?
Who took it the best?
Yeah.
Well, not Ryan.
No.
He's out of it.
Yeah,
Ryan's out of this equation.
I'm
He's in front of you. He can't count. I want somebody that can't defend themselves.
Brandon Davis.
I was gonna say Brandon Davis.
Yeah.
I could see him being like,
Because Brandon's just a nice kid.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
he's
It's
very
fake.
harmless.
It's fake.
It's horse.
It's fake.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So he's Colonel Whitmer, too.
Well, Brandon's kind of a handsome man himself.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
This is really just about my love fest.
You
for
just
different
love
men
men
in the paddock.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So,
Softest lips.
I think
Go.
Erica Davis is a little prettier than Brandon.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he definitely outkicked his coverage.
No, we've had a lot of really nice people on the team, and frankly, we didn't want a driver, no matter how good they were. We didn't want them to be on the team if they were a douche.
sure. And yet you picked Ryan.
He didn't pick me. I picked him.
Oh, off. You. So, so when the time for the TLX came and you guys had to pick a second driver, somehow Ryan's name was one of a few that were on the cards. How did his name kind of come out of the hat?
Well, I think that it was, there were a number of people that could have been there, and I didn't really know Ryan because I hadn't really been running in that series that he had been running in as religiously as I had back in the old days.
Right.
In some of that endurance stuff. But I think Lee Neffenegger brought his name.
Lee Neffenegger, who's from HPD.
Correct.
Yeah, he's a
And
project.
he's our large project leader for HPD.
He formerly was kind of in charge of the road racing side of Honda performance development.
Right.
So he would handle like the ST program for Honda development. Like, basically they would develop the parts, the engines through RealTime and HPD in Torrance. Are they in Torrance?
They're in Valencia.
They're in
or
Valencia, California.
Santa
Honda's
Clarita.
Honda's in Torrance.
Honda's
Yeah,
in Torrance,
yeah.
AHM.
And then and also the World Challenge parts and kits. You know what I mean? And so then he got basically a pretty big promotion to be able to take on the TLX GT project. That's a big step up, and now he's heading the NSX as well. But yeah, he was the
But
one
he
that
was kind of your guy that advocated for you.
yeah.
Did it bother you that Ryan did not have a nickname?
Who-
Because there's other guys like.
He's got a nickname.
Oh, he does now.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, actually I do. That's right.
Okay.
We're editing.
Yeah. Here we go. Come on, I gotta know. Even if it doesn't make the cut, I want to know. I need to hear it. Make me happy.
It's not Rai. Okay. Well, it has to be a girl's name because
I didn't-
Ryan's kind of a chick.
You sure? Okay.
Yeah, no, I'll back you up on
Keep
that.
it up. Keep it up. So here's the thing.
That's okay. I don't know anything on this.
Yeah. So they start calling me last year. I had
Why?
no idea because math might be generous too. Underselling it.
Obviously, you've been in the World Challenge paddock a long time. You're familiar with the multi-time champion Johnny O'Connell.
I am.
Oh, right. You do a good Johnny O'Connell impression, actually. He does. Yeah. He doesn't want to do it.
All right.
Can't do it on demand.
Well, here's my question with him: how, despite being such a public figure, how does nobody know that he tried to murder Dario Franchitti?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Oh. Interesting.
So, in case you ever needed to know, Johnny has been a second faster than anyone else he's ever driven against ever.
Oh,
Yeah.
He has a second.
Yeah,
on
that's pretty
everybody.
fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. He
Exactly.
should have been an F1.
Yeah, he'd have been a second quicker than Senna.
Right.
Easily.
Right. Yeah. He would have been the same. But then everybody else would have been.
But everybody else, yeah.
He can have two semis.
he's my age.
Is he?
Yeah.
It's weird. Does it bother you that he's a second faster than you?
He's probably second and a half faster than me.
Wow. Talk a little bit of business, just because I don't know that people completely get, like the difference between World Challenge and IMSA. We all understand the racing differences, but from a business standpoint, IMSA is owned by NASCAR. They have sort of a board of directors and then sort of a hierarchy built from below there. But World Challenge is run by, I guess you'd call it a company, WC Vision.
Correct.
And that's actually sort of a series of owners who some of them run teams, including yourself, correct?
That's true. Yeah, we this started many years ago as World Challenge was fledgling and not really on an ascent.
This was like 2008, 7?
Yeah, I'd say it was closer to 2006, 2007 this started to
Right.
crop up. And how it kind of started is that, and we didn't know where it was going to manifest.
Up until
but-
this time, SCCA Pro was basically
Right.
running. All of it was an SCCA Pro series, run commercially, everything.
Right, and during the Speed Vision years, it got quite a boost from the sponsorship from Speed Vision.
Right.
And kind of got used to that model. And as the Speed Vision faucet started to slowly turn down, there really was no leadership that could see what to do.
Kind of the commercial
and maybe there was
viability.
nothing that anybody could do, but it wasn't working.
Sure.
So a group of us in the paddock kind of formed an owners group, and that consisted of myself, John Doonan from Mazda,
Oh, okay. I didn't realize
and
that.
Dave Spitzer, who
Yeah.
was the
Cadillac, right?
Cadillac,
Yeah.
Yeah.
project leader. So we had some meetings with the other owners, and everybody's on board, and we kind of came up with some ideas and to try to market the series. So we basically went to SCCA Pro and said, hey, how much money are you going to put into this thing so that we can improve
keep going,
this and
yeah.
improve that?
Sure.
And they're like, no. So then we went back and had some more meetings, and it's like, well, we need to help ourselves, so we'll put in $1. So we went back to SCCA Pro and said, hey, if we put in $1, will you put in $1? No.
And the answer is no. Right.
So, they didn't have it, and they didn't see the future. So,
Well, and I assume on SCCA's radar, you're one of dozens of things they've got going on. Even though you were like the flagship Pro Series,
we were
it's still a
maybe
big organization.
evolving into that, but we weren't always, because Trans Am was, kind of in its heyday was it, and Pirelli World Challenge, or whatever they called it then, Speed Vision World Challenge, was not, it was the second tier for sure in that era.
right?
So anyway, one thing led to another, and we were able, between a group of owners who were willing to put in some money, we were able to buy the marketing rights from SCCA Pro Racing. So that's how it started. So on July 2nd, 2008, at this point, John Doonan and Mazda had kind of gone in a different direction, so he was gone. Dave Spitzer and Cadillac was gone, and now it was just Bob Woodhouse and myself that were there trying to figure out a way to stop the decline and try to turn the thing around.
Right.
And so, we didn't have a great plan,
Right.
but we knew we needed to do something,
Right.
or the whole thing was just going to implode on itself. So on July 2nd, 2008, we did that, and grew from there.
Right.
But then, and so SCCA is our sanctioning body. SCCA Pro Racing
But
is our
that's
sanctioning
but that's a
body.
collective choice from you within the ownership. In other words,
Right.
they can go and it could be somebody else if it came down to it. But
I suppose.
yeah, I'm not saying that's going to happen.
Right.
So within the ownership right now, it's P.D. Cunningham of RealTime, Bob Woodhouse, formerly of Woodhouse Motorsports.
Woodhouse
Performance, excuse me. Rob Morgan, formerly of True Speed.
Charles Morgan.
Charles Morgan.
Rob's
excuse me,
father.
Rob's father. Okay. And then is there anybody else?
Jim Huey.
Okay.
K-Pax.
K-Pax.
Right,
exactly.
K-Pax.
Yeah.
And then Stefan Rattel.
Okay.
From
who runs
SRO.
SRO, exactly.
He's
So-
our newest investor.
So everybody there except for Stefan Rattel and basically with the Morgans out of True Speed, excluding them, everybody has a stake in a team. And, thinking back to my love of open wheels and what happened with Champ Car, how much of a conflict of interest is there right now with the fact that you've got board members who also have very specific interests in their race teams doing well, or their manufacturing partners, or whoever they are?
That's a great question, and I would say that from the start, we're very aware of the impression that could create. So from the beginning, we've had a separation of church and state.
Sure.
So and now it's just Jim Huey and myself. We have no say. The other board members don't have a say. What the investor group handles is only a 10,000 foot.
So basically, you put the key figures in place.
Greg
you
Gill as
provide
president
right.
is in charge, and
But you effectively
his team.
give Greg and his guys everything. The keys to go do as you say, even if it works against you.
Right.
Okay. So we were talking
Yeah.
about this with Brad Kettler, who has obviously his specific role within.
I think he's my age too.
Is he?
Good guy.
Wow, how do you know all that?
But, Brad has a very specific role within Audi Sport Customer Racing to make the cars go fast and also to sell cars. You have a unique perspective in the world of sort of BOP for 3 or 4 reasons. You have a stake in a series which means it's in your best interest to have as many cars out there as possible. Obviously, you run a team, and so you always want to have, as a team owner, you want to have the best performance advantage possible. But you also ran in a variety of series and dominated for a little while when BOP maybe wasn't such a talked about thing, in the mid-'90s. We're hearing a lot of people these days complain about BOP left and right. And my question is, is it a sort of a necessary evil for the customer nature of where racing is at right now? Has this always been like this, and it's just that people have more access to the information now, and so they complain more?
I think so, but I think that certainly it's been a work in progress, and it continues to be a work in progress on just how the science of determining BOP is accomplished. Back in the day, when it was still going on in periods of semi-domination from, the Integra Type Rs, for example, it was going on, but some of the tools they used then was radar guns on the back straightaway.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Right.
And lap times.
Yeah.
So you would say there probably wasn't as much attention to it simply because they didn't have the tools to be able to measure it more
Well,
deeply.
I guess, I think data has come a long way, and the tools that they have now for measuring, the performance potential of cars is night and day, night and day. And, we want to balance the cars, but the reality is to this day, we're balancing the cars, teams, driver combinations.
Exactly.
So
based
it's not
on
a
that,
perfect science.
if we had,
But it's probably a necessary evil to promote competitive racing.
right.
right.
Because if someone is allowed to come in and win all the races, who are they going to race against?
You're right.
Right.
Yeah.
So thinking of like the glory days of the 80s and 90s, would you say that if they had the tools we have today, there would have been more BOP talk and nonsense in those days than there would be today?
I would argue that, we'd have had a bigger advantage.
Interesting. I like that.
So we do a pass-along question. You're actually going to like this one because I don't think Eddie Gossage knew who he was dealing with. So his question was for P.D. Cunningham, has there ever been in the history of production cars of Honda a motorcycle-powered car?
No.
Yes. Apparently there was.
According to Eddie Gossage.
Yeah.
Well, certainly the technology from the motorcycle engines that they had been building
Right.
went into the engines that they were building for road cars.
So he swears there was a. I thought I wrote this down.
This
but
is way out of my
yeah,
expertise.
we have to listen to his episode now. He swears there was a motorcycle-powered Honda, and I want to say he said it was like the engine out of like a CB350 or something, and a small Honda car.
This is the most fascinating pass-along question.
I can't remember.
But no. Fail.
Yeah, cool. So no, we'll just edit after that when you go no. Okay, so lunch today. Well, in like an hour.
Yeah, as soon as we're done here, we're off to lunch.
Yeah, we'll be with Ricky Stenhouse,
Okay.
NASCAR driver. Any question you would ever want to ask Ricky Stenhouse?
What era would you have rather commenced your NASCAR career in if you weren't the age that you are now?
Oh, we really do have to go. All right. So, brand new NSX program, literally here at SEMA. Yesterday it was announced that Ryan and Peter Cox will be driving. Go. What are you guys expecting?
Well, I think that everybody understands what our jobs are, and it's our intention to contend for the championship in 2017 in our first year. We've got badass car that is very well put together, and we're going to be working very hard to breathe on it, to make it the best that it can be from the start of the year.
Okay, if you turn wrenches, it usually works better than just breathing on it.
Okay, I'll pass that along.
Okay,
The guys-
so let the guys know.
Yeah, Sean Heckman said.
I am just a PR guy, but try more than breathing.
Right.
But there's 12 or 13 other manufacturers there with the same idea that have time on their side as far as experience with their platform, and many of them are world-class teams as well. So we, I think, have a balance of our objectives for the year, but when we're not on the top step of the podium, we want to have reliability and good decision making from the team's perspective and the driver's perspective to get a 4th place or a 8th place or a 2nd place when we're not winning races. So we just have to see how it goes, but I don't know that we can do anything more than we're doing to prepare, and we're looking forward to it for sure.
Now, you guys, from what I understand, we're pretty fixed in as the NSX World Challenge team. The process of the team they were going to choose in IMSA was a bidding process. There were a few teams that were involved. 2 things. One, since you're kind of the go-to Honda team and you've been for so long, do you have to go through any of that when it comes to World Challenge Racing, or did you get the call years ago that they're already developing this NSX and you're the guy, can you get involved with us now?
It's a little bit of a quandary because, RealTime doesn't want the responsibility of doing the TLX program or the NSX program just because of our tenure.
Okay.
We don't want them to give it to us because they feel sorry for us, or that we have, they somehow feel obliged because this is just how we've always done it.
Right.
I think that, RealTime stock has always, had a certain positive sense from their company over the years, and I think that the TLX era tested that, but I think that since they were living and breathing our program for the first time, because really before TLX, we didn't really have involvement from HPD. There was some affiliations there, but really they weren't living and breathing it with us. So I think that the TLX era and the struggles that we had, the challenges that we had, the adversity that we had, and the success that we've managed has strengthened our position at Honda as a go-to partner. So I think that had something to do with us, getting the NSX program. And as far as who got the IMSA program, that we weren't involved in that.
Right. Did you want that program?
Well, of course we would have wanted to do it all.
Sure.
But no, it made sense. We are the stalwarts in Pirelli World Challenge, and
right.
Michael Shanks got the experience in the endurance platform.
Sure.
We've had that. I've had that personally years ago, but it hasn't been in many years.
Right.
That strategy element and all of
yeah,
that.
as an organization, you
yeah.
haven't done a race like that
right.
in a while.
So that was fine, but I think that now that we've gotten to know Mike and his team, compared to before where we just knew of them and
right.
said, hey, how's it going? They certainly HPD did well in selecting. I'm sure he's not as nice to his drivers and his crew.
I don't know. He was out drinking late last night with me.
Was
I
it
mean,
really?
with other people.
I mean,
right. And RealTime has now worked with the Shank guys
right.
hand in hand on the development of the
you
car.
guys have been at preseason tests together and that sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And to throw all the Shank guys and all the RealTime guys and then a bunch of HPD guys into a pile.
Plus, then you have Italians because that car's being produced by Jas Motorsports from Italy. So it's like this big come together and everything I've been at's been awesome. Like
To
everyone
have all
seems to be
these
really good.
egos
Yeah.
and
Well, it
everything.
sounds like that scene in Anchorman.
Right, where they all fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been pretty amazing. I don't
Yeah.
know of what two other teams could collaborate
right.
from day one.
Yeah.
And as bad things happen, then really
Not immediately
have all
point
hands on
fingers.
deck
Yeah.
Right.
to work together to
And not get stuck in that, I don't know what those Shank guys are doing, but here we wouldn't have done that.
right.
Top 5 movies in Petey Cunningham's favorite movie list. Caddyshack.
Yes.
I got nothing after that.
Planes, trains, and automobiles.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stripes.
Okay.
I'm noticing a very specific era. Uncle Buck.
Uncle Buck.
Holy fuck, did I not call it? Okay.
Uncle Buck.
Yeah. Anything
Here,
with John
Here's
Candy.
a quarter. Take this thing downtown and have a rat eat that thing off your face. Good day, madam.
Good day, madam.
So John Candy, Steve Martin, Bill Murray, 80s, early 90s. That's
Adam
your time.
Sandler.
Okay.
Yeah.
Best Adam Sandler movie.
Billy Madison.
Yes, thank you. No, I'm in. I'm totally in.
All right. Best racing movie.
Got nothing for you.
Fair enough.
All right. Well,
I'm good.
Continental's got the check.
I'm finished.
Wow, that was such a great episode. That guest really knew how to tell a story.
Well, yeah, Ryan, that's your boss. You should feel that way.
You're welcome, Sean. I'm right here.
Now, Petey is not my boss, and in fact, I'd never met him before, and I walked away really, really liking the guy. Funny, cool to hang out with, completely understood what we were doing, so I'm a fan. I'm definitely a fan. Anyway, we will close out of here with a band that we've played a few times before. I'm a big fan of them as well. They're called the Agrolites. Cool little LA-based reggae band. This is a song that I just thought would be fun. It's called Pop the Trunk on iTunes.
The Agrolites are gonna funk my bumper.